Well, it's March and it's a beautiful early spring day. But anyway, I'm raring to get going and it's so lovely, so here we go, let's start sowing. So what I've done is I've prepared the ground, I've dug it over, raked it over, made a nice fine soil surface, put a line out, and then using the edge of a hoe, we can use a bit of a stick, made a seed drill, a little shallow depression in the soil, probably about 3/4 of an inch deep. I haven't added any manure, any feed, because carrots, it's best not to do that, because carrots can sometimes fork, produce more than one root if the soil is too fertile. It's particularly moist at the moment, the soil, but you can just water the drill first. I like to do that sometimes. And sometimes it helps with germination, is if you put some compost, just some general multi-purpose compost, in the seed drill first, and then you can start sowing the seeds. Literally go along, sowing the row like this. There's two schools of thought with sowing carrots. Sometimes you can get very erratic germination, so it's best to, you can sow them a little bit thicker so that you make sure you get a good row. There's another school of thought that if you sow them a bit thinner, then you don't need to thin them out, remove the excess ones too much. Because if you're removing excess seedlings, sometimes it can attract the carrot fly, which causes a little grub to grow and actually tunnel into the roots. But usually I try and aim for 3 millimetres or so between the seeds, so that I can ensure then I get a good even row. And once you've got to the end, it's just a case of just knocking the soil back over. Sometimes I'll actually pick up, if we get lumps, I actually pick it up and sprinkle it, so it's a nice fine covering. Gently tap it down, and then what I would do now is get a watering can with a fine rose and just go over the top just to nicely wet it. And every few days, especially if you get any dry weather in the spring, it's worth giving them a little bit of a watering. So now, having sown these, it could be a couple of weeks really before you see anything, and it depends on the time of year. If it's a bit warmer, you might see them in, say, 10 days, you might see them coming through, but maybe a couple of weeks at this time of year. If you've got a cloche over them, they may come through a little bit quicker. And then once they come through, you'll often find you'll get a clump of them growing. Just gradually, just very gently tease them out so you've got them nicely spaced, and as they grow, keep thinning them out so you've got a nice good gap between them, so you get a nice good sized root. We'll be checking in on these maybe in a month's time to see how they're growing.